Hi guys, quick update here for the stock market. It's 30th of September 2025. Just catching an FX lifestyle video. Man, this guy was a legend back in the day.
I'm living a millionaire lifestyle and I'm 22 years old. I'm drinking expensive $1,000 champagne and chilled by the pool on top of the hills, and it's crazy.
Man, he had the best
so
videos.
Many millionaires this year through my course and my forex signals. Right guys, so I'm going to be trading from here.
He's trading from the side of the pool. Millionaires. Now, if you want to become a real millionaire and not just an FX lifestyle fake man, then you want to be joining here. Literally turned people's lives around with this educational course. Certainly the greatest educational course in the history of mankind. Nothing goes into this much detail. And if you want a more day-to-day sort of intake in terms of my take on the wider stock market and everything else, you can come and join the group. It is discounted over 3 months, and obviously we've got a mortgage course. So I mean, if you're not in the group, you're missing great moves like this. This is a genuine move on China. The long and short of it is we're going to 457 all the way up there. At absolute minimum, we're going to run these highs. Volumes increasing. Now, we know CCP have got a Labour conference type of meeting last week of October. We know there's earnings on November the 13th, and we also know next year is the year of the horse, the fire horse, as it were, in China. So we are very much aware of these sort of three events on the horizon over the next 4 to 6 months, which may upset the apple cart here short term on Alibaba. But right now, it's the 30th of September. So I don't see this rally stopping any minute, anytime soon here, to be frank with you, right? We're saying the S&P, I mean, it's busted through our first target of 460s. We're now approaching second target of 6,800, and we have 2 more extension targets, which I won't give away. Those are just for group members. So unless Nvidia and the stock market decide to top later on today, I don't see this Alibaba move stopping. To me, Baba's going all the way, and it will now, from current levels, outperform Nvidia and the major US tech stocks, which obviously Microsoft, Apple, Tesla. How much more do you want from there? Baba's been consolidating very nicely over 2 years. We got in about 3 or 4 weeks ago prior to this last pump up, and we deem this as a genuine move. And right now we're going through areas of very little profile. There's very little profile up here. There's very little volume. So the market clearly wants to establish value somewhere else. Right now all the value's been built up around here. Well, guess what? That's the accumulation. That's the cause. And effect is proportional to the cause which precedes it. There is literally no, I mean, you got a nice little pivot there at 230, but why would it stop at 230 and then come back down again? Is that really an ABC coming down? I don't think so. This is going to go all the way. If you're not in the group, you're missing out, really. So either you should be in the group or you should take the educational course. Should be one or the other, and not spend all day long listening to a main man FX lifestyle making millions in forex supposedly by the side of a pool. Now, FXI, some people like to play the ETF, so we're a huge fan of buying one stock and buying an ETF. To me, that can easily challenge to around the 100 level. Right now, it's at 40. Some go for KWeb. KWeb is effectively like the Qs, right? The Qs are just the tech sector in the US. So KWeb is like the Qs, but FXI is like almost like a... Well, it would be like a broad range SPY ETF, wouldn't it? Where you're capturing everything in China, not just the tech. So you're catching a bit of Baidu, a bit of JD, but you're also catching the industrial sector, commercial sector, staples, Mitchen, the famous antiperspirant spray for ladies, that is a great Chinese company there too. So it's important to be, mindful of that. You can go for KWeb, but I don't think KWeb looks as good. I don't want to make the call on KWeb to new highs. That looks like a travesty. For that to get back up to 100 seems very unlikely. So why expose yourself to such a small sector, even though it's a huge sector? It probably makes up 25%. Why not expose yourself to the wider China large cap ETF, and thus it's equivalent to the S&P 500. So KWeb is difficult. I know a lot of people are going for KWeb, a lot are going for JD. Well, I mean, most people don't know what they're doing, so they've actually missed this entire move because they're focused too much on Bitcoin. This is why we don't just cover Bitcoin all day long, right? We're here to make money consistently, but sometimes you have to wait a few days, you have to wait a few weeks, and then people get bored and they leave the group. Well, then guess what? You've now missed the move. So it's just the unfortunate way the stock market works. It's Pareto's principle. 80% of the time on any time frame, any stock is going to be wasting your life away. Then suddenly in 20% of the time, it's going to make its move. If you're not in the group during that 20% of the time, you're going to end up missing the move. And right now, everyone's FOMOing in at 180, and we have been long since 120. So to me, that is a very healthy looking candle, and as we have established, we're going through very little volume up here, so I see no reason why China cannot continue rallying going into the end of the year. So that is China. So well done to everyone in the group. SPY, we've been long since 500 here on the SPY. As you can see, it's kind of, going a bit parabolic here. Still, I don't want to call a top. There's many top callers out there, and I refuse to call a top. This was the easiest trade in human history here. We said 4/6s, boom, we got our move. Now, could we pull back short term here? Of course we can. Are we going to have a huge crash all the way down to the COVID lows from here? I don't think so. To me, this still extends. I still cannot call a top on the SPY, and I cannot call a top in Nvidia, which I'm convinced is going to go to a $5 trillion market cap, which once again, we called it here. We thought 4 trillion was a ridiculous headline, but it turns out 5 trillion is going to be the ridiculous headline, which is ridiculous, to be fair with you. If you were to look at it over price over earnings compared to Cisco, it's not ridiculous at all. It's completely reasonable, but just the headline 5 trillion is absolutely incredible. How it's Nvidia, which will be the first and, as it turns out, only company to ever do that. So watching Nvidia very closely, watching Dow 50K, watching the Sam Altman OpenAI IPO. He's too busy building data centers in half of Texas right now, but eventually he'll come along and he'll release the IPO as we get DHL, FedEx, Royal Mail, and UPS all over this stock market. And that is really the top signal. The top signal is when your postman starts to talk about, oh, should I buy Vanguard ETFs? It's time to leg it. As the great Robert Kennedy once said, he called it the shoe polishing boy from 1930, where these Wall Street stockbrokers get their shoe polish right outside Wall Street there, and the shoe polishing boy, the story goes, he was discussing stocks which Robert Kennedy himself was owning. He was like, okay, hold on a minute. It appears the stock market and these individual stocks have now made their way from the wealthy to the broke lower class, and so therefore it means the average guy on the street is now fully exposed long. And Robert Kennedy basically used that as a top signal. Him and his mates got out of there, JP Morgan, Jesse Livermore included, and within 4 weeks the Wall Street had quite an amazing crash. I mean, we have read the history books, I'm sure. It was like a 50% crash all in the space of a few weeks. So it was quite an incredible crash. That first crash was really quite an incredible crash. Eventually, the Dow just continued on going. It went right into the depths of hell here, but this sort of first crash was absolutely incredible. 50% in 92 days, absolutely incredible. In the end, it was a ridiculous crash. I mean, we took out nearly, what is that? 15 years of gains were taken out in the space of basically less than 3 years. That's basically a prelude for what's about to come. So that's the stock market. That's Nvidia. Baba looks very good. We'll have a quick look at Bitcoin here for the Bitcoin crew. So Bitcoin it's still quite frustrating. It's not really enjoying the melt up here, which is why we like to look at everything in the group. We're not just fixated on one asset class. As you can see, quite pathetic volume. It's really the pathetic nature that I don't like. We're on this kind of shelf here. Everyone's looking at this head and shoulders, and it is certainly a genuine head and shoulders. I don't think you can really say that it isn't. As we know, people will have their sell orders here, so people are probably front running the head and shoulders. So often before the actual head and shoulders break, you get a fake move. To me, me, that was a fake move yesterday. You never trust Monday morning moves before noon Eastern. You just don't trust those moves. Those are just fake moves. There's no volume on a Monday morning, especially. Even Friday afternoon, you're better off trusting those moves then than you are on Monday, especially on Bitcoin, because Friday, even though it's not the case with the stock market, happens to be a very volatile day in the stock market. Almost one of the most volatile days in crypto, given a 7-day market, is actually Friday and Saturday. But I never trust Monday morning moves, especially as I'm controlling probably half of the crypto market here in terms of volume. They always like to give us a head fake when I release my videos early on a Monday and early on a Thursday. So I never trust the moves at the time I'm releasing my video. To me, that's a fake. That's a front run off the Head and Shoulders, and they've had their sell stops here. They've now been shaken out of their positions, and now we're going to get the real move. So, you know, you add this onto this, you can see we're going to go lower, and we're still looking for yo sushi over here. You know, we're still looking for the yo-yo trade, and the yo-yo is right there. It's the yearly open. So to me, that is, you know, that is nailed on. You know, we have to run something. You can't just call a turn here just randomly. You know, don't do or say anything in your life unless there's a point to it. Don't water weeds and don't cut flowers, right? Right now, it's not gardening season here on Bitcoin. Right now, the garden's not looking very rosy here at all. It's full of mushrooms, full of weed. There's dark patches. It's winter. It's looking quite awful. We've established that long-term traders, they buy on January the 1st, they F off on a world cruise on the MSC Europa, going from one side of the world to the other, and they come back around Thanksgiving, and then they're like, oh, how's my portfolio doing? Well, we need those guys to get shaken out. They've not come off their cruise ships right now. It's not holiday season yet. They're still enjoying themselves. Well, that's fine. They can enjoy themselves all they like. When do most people sell? Most people will start panicking once their very heavy green position, up 20% on the year, is suddenly now only up 10% on the year. Soon, they'll be very close to zero, and when they start going into the red, that's when they start panicking. So I don't see anything to do here until Yo Sushi gets taken out. Obviously, we've got precise time and price targets. You'll have to come and join the group. But we're not going to stay involved in a market which is as dead as the dodo over here. We want to take part in what's moving, and that's Alibaba right now, right? So I wouldn't be surprised by the time Bitcoin bottoms, Baba might be out of steam. Well, guess what? You've missed the move. So the group is really for those serious investors who understand this is not linear. You're not making money here in a linear fashion. Let's say you're employed by a corporation. Every month you get paid a set amount, set expenses, set bills, whatever, right? The stock market is not like that. It's not linear in its movement. 80% of the time, any stock is going to waste your life away. China, effectively, let's look at the Hong Kong, which is going towards 30 grand, right? Maybe even 50 grand, but let's say 30 grand first of all, right? You know, it's effectively underperformed the S&P 500 for over 17 years, right? Well, guess what? That's the cause. So yes, during that time, obviously we were not heavily involved in China. Certainly I wasn't the last 16 years. US market was, where you wanted to be. Well, guess what? That's the cause. So you can look at it in as many ways as you like. China is where you want to be. People who are late to the party, well, obviously, you're not going to make as much money. You've missed the move. You've been following too many gimps on Twitter all day long talking about Bitcoin. We're here to make money. We don't care what we buy. Yes, we are fond of certain stocks like the US tech sector, like Nvidia. Got a lot of time for Nvidia. Made a lot of money on there. Got a lot of time for Western Alliance, which we were buying at 6. Zion Bank. Right, we're buying all this crap way down in the lows. Obviously, we're not going to buy here because we buy low, sell high, and we run for our life. So, we've got a lot of time for certain stocks, even Coinbase. Got a lot of time for Coinbase. It's at 330 though. What do you want to do at 330? What's it going to do? Double? Coinbase won't double from here in the next 50 bajillion years. We have to be in what's moving. To quote Jim Cramer, and I give that guy a hard time all day, every day, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. Number one, that's very, very true. And number two is there's always a bull market somewhere. To me, easily that breaks 30k, easily on the Hong Kong. And we know Alibaba is so correlated towards Hang Seng, right? Some people will go for JD, but I will make the point, as I have done to the group, I'm seeing relative weakness in JD over Baba, right? So we like to divide things into each other, right? So you can see that. Yeah? You can see that. It doesn't mean JD's crap. Obviously, JD is going to get a sympathy bid. Just like if Nvidia pumps, AMD will get a sympathy bid. But do we really need to compare these two, let's say, over the last 2 years? Well, I mean, that is an absolute abomination, isn't it, right? Since... that is basically an insult, right? I know Martin Brundle, bless him, at the Miami Grand Prix has a real hard time. I mean, the guy's a legend. I mean, the DJ Khaled interview at the Miami Grand Prix was absolutely incredible. But he asks Sun Tzu, Lisa Su, I apologize. What a legend. The cousin of the other fucker at the Nvidia over there. He asks Lisa Sun Tzu, who are you? And she's like looking at him saying, you dumb fucker. Like, who the hell are you to say that to me? I'm the CEO of AMD. So the rest of us know who Sun Tzu is. She's an absolutely incredible CEO. But let's be honest, my main man Jason Wong over there, he's outperformed his own cousin by 900%. Which one would you rather be in, right? So it's really interesting how people invest. And in the group, ideally, it's not always possible. We want to be in the fastest movers. Yes, buying New York Banking Corporation, even Zion would have been okay, but we chose Zion Bank, right? I mean, we chose Western Alliance mainly, and Western Alliance was all the way down here. Down at these lows, obviously, I'm on the monthly chart here. That's an outperformance by 200% plus dividends, right? So we have to divide things into each other. I mean, let me give you another one. Once again, we're bullish on Nvidia. We're saying it's going to go to 5 trillion. Nvidia has basically beat the living hell, as has the US stock market the last however many thousands of millions of years. Well, guess what? Now the tide is slowly turning. At time of doing video, would you rather be in Nvidia or Alibaba? That's the numerator, that's the denominator. Nvidia's been on top the last 16 years, last however long, 15 years, whatever. But right now, to me, I mean, you could read all of that as a bit of an A, as a bit of a W, right? So let's just run this through. Let's just do some basic chart analysis. Once again, every chart can be analyzed, including the ones where you can divide things into each other. Why? Why is that possible, mate? Because Alibaba has a chart which can be analyzed with long-term chart history, as has Nvidia. So why would dividing them into each other not show me good information? Because it clearly does. Well, that gets you over to here, 1.88. So who watching this video doesn't think between now and the end of the year, Alibaba isn't going to outperform Nvidia by 88%? That's a lot of percent, to be honest with you. That's a lot. We're not saying Nvidia's crap. No way. We're not saying it's crap. Obviously, in the group, we've sold our position because we're swing traders, right? We understand we want to be in the fastest moving stock. And I could divide Baba into any other stock. Apple, Microsoft, it will all be the same. We're not saying Nvidia's crap. We're saying it's got a little bit higher to go. But we have to ideally, as swing traders, who make all the money here. All the money is made by swing traders, swing investors, and algorithmic hedge fund traders, because they never allow that, let's say 10,000, 100,000, 1 million off capital. They never allow it to just die and decay and stay in a dead stock for too long. I don't think it goes that high, by the way. I think it goes even higher. I think the move on Alibaba is going to surprise a lot of people. And just like everything that we see in the stock market, I mean, how many moves have we called on YouTube now? It's been at least 300 moves I've called publicly on YouTube, and my own calls, probably well over 10,000 calls that I've made since '08. How many times have we seen this where people FOMO in to the wrong stock at the wrong time, and then their capital is just dead money? They'll make a little bit of money, but not enough. You make 10% on Nvidia and Alibaba goes up 70%. How much have you made? The amateur will say 10. I will say, sorry mate, you've lost 70, you've lost 60%. That's the way I see it. So we have to have a bit of a winning psychology here. We have to make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. By no means am I bearish on Nvidia. I'm simply highlighting the power of dividing things into each other and being a swing trader, and basically taking my educational masterclass and not listening to FX Lifestyle. In fact, let's just catch another FX Lifestyle video, because man, this guy was really big. I don't know where he's fucked off to.
5-star luxury hotel. Their lifestyle, drinking champagne every day.
Right, he's drinking champagne every day. he's got a little bandana there, like he's Eazy-E, or from the South Central Cartel. So man's been chilling with the Crips and the Bloods out there on the West Coast. So anyway, that's Alibaba. I don't think there's anything else to cover. So if you want to know more, come and join the group. If you're not in the group, you're really missing out. As we have said repeatedly, everything happens from September to March. Those are really the most that you really want to be in the group. That's when the most amount of volume and moves are taking place. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. If you want to make some money, come and join the group.